Look at that little face! Hello! Actually, my 4 subscribers. I'm so sorry. Last week I told you I'd get out 3 videos and I got out 1. This week I'm going to at least get out 2. This starting another location for my work has been a little crazier than I thought it was going to be. And we're, just working a bunch of stuff out, but it's very time consuming. But I have this one done, obviously, because you're watching it, and I have another one that I'm at least editing right now, so it should be out by either Wednesday or Friday. Anyways, without further ado, today we are playing Depression Quest again. If you haven't seen the previous 2, I'm going to put them right up there. I will get that down one day. So go check those out so you're up to speed. Essentially, what we know right now in the game is we're playing as a 20-something-year-old with a job that they don't really like, kind of living in a crappy apartment, has a very, very stressed relationship with their family. We know that the relationship with his mother is, I'm not going to say detrimental, but it's very, very complicated. Yes. So this episode actually gets into more of the caveats that can occur through life. And by that I mean maneuvering interactions with friends, therapy, pets, that kind of stuff. So without further ado, here it is. It's a lazy Sunday morning. You're idly clicking around online as your phone rings. Sam, a coworker of yours. Oh, that's funny. That's how Sam and I know each other, is that we work together. Sam, a coworker of yours that you're friendly with, asks you how you are and makes hurried small talk with you. You typically only ever talk to him on the phone when one of you needs a shift covered, so it's slightly awkward. You're waiting in anticipation for him to ask you to come in on short notice when he veers the conversation in a completely different direction. How do you feel about cats? He asks. Mine had kittens a few weeks ago, and I'm having an awfully hard time finding a home for the last one of the litter. You don't have any pets, right? Oh, that's sweet, especially because I have a little Draco, and this is kind of how I ended up getting him. It wasn't a coworker, but my boyfriend at the time, his sister, her cat had kittens and needed to find good homes for them. And he was the little runt, so I knew he was going to be the one that had a tougher time finding a home. It takes you a moment to process the new information, and you're caught off guard as he begins to earnestly try and sell you on the idea of taking the last kitten off his hands. It's not something that you had specifically considered before, and he seems fairly insistent. She's a real sweetheart, really loves people, she's got all her shots already taken care of, and the vet says she's healthy as a horse. I can bring her over by your place tonight if you're interested. You look around your apartment and try to picture a cat in it as he continues to tell you about how cute she is. You tell him this is all kind of sudden and that you don't have anything for the kitten set up here. Don't worry about that. I can bring over a litter box and food and all that since you'd really be helping me out in a fix. It's the least I could do. I just don't want to have her put in a shelter. And really, that is kind of all you need with a cat. I've spent so much on getting him toys and trees and playthings, and for the most part, he just plays in boxes and with twist ties and stuff. You can't help but feel like you're being guilt-tripped, but you decide to give it some serious consideration. It does get awful lonely around your apartment, and it might feel less empty with a cat around. However, since you've been feeling so down, it might not be a good idea to take on the responsibility of a cat, even if they are fairly low maintenance. What do you do? This one, without a doubt, is become a cat owner. Because, yes, they are very self-maintaining, and actually, when I first got Draco, I had a bunch of stress dreams about not being able to take care of him because I knew cats were so independent. But really, they will let you know, hey, I don't have food, hey, I don't have water, give me attention now, hey, you're not feeling good, I need to give you attention. So we are going to become a cat owner. Look at that little face! Oh. You accept the offer of the cat and hang up shortly after making arrangements for when your coworker can drop her off tonight. After hanging up, you worry about if you've suddenly taken on a responsibility that you can't handle, and hope you don't make a small animal suffer for it. Actually, as soon as my ex brought Draco home, I started crying because I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to give him everything he needs. You're not entirely sure what to expect, and you spend the rest of the afternoon searching cat care online and thinking of a name. You eventually roll around. The evening rolls around, and you hear a knock at your door, startling you out of reading Wikipedia entries too hard. You take possession of a small, terrified black and white kitten in a carrier, along with everything you need to start taking care of her. You take her into your bedroom, close the door, and open the door to the carrier excitedly. She cowers in the back of it, and you back off. Feeling slightly defeated, you remember how you researched on introducing a kitten to a new home and leaving her alone to go mess around with your computer, hopefully checking over your shoulder every so often to see if she has come out yet. Yeah, that's kind of true. I feel like I got really lucky, and as soon as I opened up that carrier, Draco walked out, and he walked right to me. He buried his face in my chest, and that was just where he stayed. She hides inside of her carrier, periodically making sorrowful cat howlings long enough for you to start worrying that she already doesn't like you. But by the time you go to bed, she's curled up at the foot of it, eyeing you nervously before falling asleep. Over the next few days, you gain her trust, and she begins affectionately following you around, sleeping on you and hopping on you anytime you sit down to do some work. It's very nice to have a cat, because they really are better companions than their reputation gives them. You are deeply depressed, every activity you used to enjoy holds little or no interest to you, and you exist in a near constant state of lethargy. You're not currently seeking a therapist, you're not currently taking medications for depression. Alright, so my interaction with my mother and my reactions to it actually made me more depressed. But I'm hoping that having this cat will start to help it. It's late Friday afternoon, and quitting time is just around the corner. A bright, clear day is giving way to a still, temperate evening. You can hear your coworkers all around you anxiously making plans for their evenings and weekends, but you're really looking forward to just going home and resting after what's turned out to be a very long and taxing work week. That always feels really nice. I kind of like when I've had a few hard days at work and I get to just go home and I get to chill with Draco and, you know. Just before the end of your shift, you get a call from Alex. It seems a group of your mutual friends, are heading out to a nearby pub for dinner and drinks to celebrate the end of the week, and they want to know if you'd like to come along. You tentatively tell her that you're emotionally exhausted from the work week and social outing like that would just be too much for you today. You encourage her to go and have a good time, since you know it's been a while since she's gone out with friends. But the effort feels futile since you know she isn't going to go without you. A couple hours later, the two of you find yourselves in a familiar position, on the couch, watching comedy shows on Netflix, a box of pizza open on the coffee table in front of you. That actually sounds really good. If I were Alex, that wouldn't be a bad night, even if I wanted to go out with friends. If you love someone, that truly never gets old, in my opinion. As you look across the couch at her, you start to feel anxious. You feel bad about effectively forcing the two of you to stay in tonight again. No, you're sharing intimacy. This is a good thing. And she is being patient, even though she wants to do something else. She is being there for you, even in this small way. And I'm saying this, exasperated, and I know that people that have depression can't view it that way, and it's completely not their fault. But it hurts my heart to know that people see interactions, and I have relationships that have seen interactions with me like this, where they felt like they were holding me back, and felt that they couldn't voice it to me. While you're always appreciative of your partner's efforts to make you feel, to take your feelings into account and help make sure you're socially comfortable, you sincerely worry that you're holding her back from enjoying a more fulfilling relationship. And that's not the case. Ugh. While she does seem to enjoy spending time with you, as the two of you sit in comfortable, almost contented silence with watching old shows you've each seen 2 or 3 times before, your ever-increasing fear that your relationship is becoming one-sided weighs more and more heavily on you. You feel more than ever like a burden or a ward to her, and it's virtually impossible for you to see the value you could possibly offer to her in return. Worst of all, this nagging fear has made you feel more self-conscious than ever, withdrawing ever inward, and you've started to pull away, even from Alex herself. What do you do? I made mistakes along the way, apparently, because I've exhausted every option except don't say anything, you're already worried about her being upset with you. In reality, this would be a good time to talk. This would be an ideal time to just have an open discussion about, do you feel like I'm holding you back? And if so, where do we go from here? And if not, then why do you like doing this? Or something, but I only have one option now. This is far from the first time you would have had this conversation with her, and that's fine. Have it as many times as it needs to be had. And it's one that plays out the same way every time. You explain your fears of being worthless. She tries to tell you that she doesn't see you that way. You insist that she's biased or just being nice to you because she's your girlfriend, and she gets frustrated. It never resolves, nothing new is ever said, and rarely do you feel reassured by it. And it says rarely. Occasionally you will be reassured by it, and just the simple act of continuing to stay is so big, in my eyes anyway. Not because it's a task to stay, but because to that person it's not a task to stay with you. Occasionally she tries to broach the subject, trying to discover why you feel like this about yourself. This always makes you feel nervous. You're sometimes convinced that the only reason she's still with you is because she doesn't know how awful you really are. As time has gone, you've gotten more comfortable trying to express bits and pieces of your insecurities to her, but it still causes you to feel very on guard. And it's not a conversation you can have for too long without worrying you're going to scare her away. The weight of an unspoken, unresolved issue in your relationship joins you in the room for a little while, but you dare not pick at it for the rest of the night. Okay, I have more choices this time. Hopefully we can help me. It is a breezy Sunday afternoon. You've allowed Amanda, an old friend from school that is in town for the weekend, to talk you into leaving your house for coffee and catch up. This is always so nice. You meet her in a small coffee shop and talk about what you've been up to since you've last seen each other, and you can't help but feel like they're a lot more accomplished and interesting than you are while listening to them talk about their life after school. Oh no, I see where this is going now, okay. When it's your turn to brief them on your activities, you feel anxious and ashamed and give a very abbreviated version. You try to talk about your job as little as possible, and you feel incredibly boring while you describe it, despite her expressing sincere interest in you and your life. And that's the thing when you meet up with old friends, is rarely are they trying to outdo you. They really are just interested in what your life is like. Yeah, and if you ever feel like you don't have achievements in life, list your life in facts. I was on set the other day, and we were talking about how a lot of people our age feel this exact way, that they don't measure up to the people around them. And your life is far more impressive when you just list your life in facts, because facts are objective, whereas your experience on how you got all of these things, that is highly objective. And because of that objectivity, it seems uninteresting to us when we are trying to describe it to other people often. Amanda knows you long enough to read your mood and tone of voice. She leans in to ask a question. while gently touching your hand, a look of genuine concern on her face. What's wrong? Insist that nothing is wrong and change the subject. Defensively ask what she means by that. Notice that your hands are shaking. Let's take accountability of ourselves and acknowledge at least the surrounding and the objective environment that we're in. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little teary-eyed. It's such a small question. It's such a small question, but it feels like a blow to the gut. You surprise yourself when you realize that your tightly clenched fists are now beginning to shake slightly. Despite your best efforts, you feel tears begin to string down at your eyes. You try to disguise this by tilting your head up and praying that they'll suck back in. She suggests that you two get out of there. You feel mortified. It's that vulnerability, and you just gotta be open to it when it happens. Like, I'm sort of like, okay, how am I gonna edit out me crying in this video? But, yeah, like I said, I only have 2 subscribers right now, so it's not even like it matters. And that's just me rationalizing. Like, if I had 1 million subscribers, I feel like I wouldn't be ashamed to have people see me cry. She offers to go back to your apartment with you, but the two of you end up talking in her car for 2 hours as the words just pour forth from you. That's a very weird relationship to have that I absolutely love. I have friends that if we decided to get coffee, have a video chat, anything, the relationship in no way was ended by time. It wasn't impeded by time at all. And that's really nice, and I feel like that's who Amanda is in this game. Amanda seems unsure of what to say at times, but she listens and rubs your back as you sob and talk. She asks if you've gone to a doctor about this, and you admit that you haven't. She mentions that her mother is seeing a very good therapist in town and offers to ask her about it. You're not thrilled about the idea of going to a therapist, and even less thrilled that Amanda might be telling someone about your problems, but she persists and tells you she'll email you the doctor's contact information later in the week. And see, I actually used to be a person that was so wholeheartedly against therapy because I felt like it was people using a crutch, and then I eventually got so overwhelmed in my own life that I sought therapy, actually like behind the backs of a lot of people, which I say behind the back, I mean it's no one's business, but your own. But I like kind of went out of my way to hide the fact that I was going to therapy from my family, and from like my coworkers, which I have no idea now why I did that, because therapy is nothing to be ashamed of. It is just a very personal experience. Yeah, if you feel like you need to go, even if you're not depressed and just feel like you want to go talk to a therapist, I would highly recommend it. It's a glaringly sunny Monday, and one of the few days that your brother Malcolm is in town and free long enough for you two to actually see each other. You have a dental appointment that day, but you make plans for him to pick you up afterwards. Your appointment has taken a little longer than expected because your dentist tells you that you've started grinding your teeth in your sleep to a worrying degree. Given how nearly everything in your life has been feeling enormous and stressful lately, this doesn't come as a surprise to you. He suggests that you try to reduce your stress level and fits you for a night guard. It feels awkward and too big for your mouth. Yeah, that's kind of the point of a night guard. And you feel embarrassed looking at your puffed out face in the mirror with it in. You finish up the appointment in a hurry and leave about half an hour overdue by meeting your always punctual brother in a parking lot. Yeah, I've been there. You finish up as quickly as possible and leave the building to scan the parking lot for your brother's car, but you don't see his old Civic anywhere. You pass by a blue Camaro and jump as it beeps at you, causing you to jump in surprise. It takes you a moment to realize, but it's Malcolm in the driver's seat. You hop in the passenger seat and compliment him on his new ride, and he mentions that it's a perk of a promotion he's recently obtained at work, which, objectively, I should be happy for my brother, but I know that that is going to create insecurities in myself. He starts telling you about how much more money he's making, how his career is really taking off, and how he's starting to look at houses with his wife soon. You clutch the bag containing the night guard in your hand and feel yourself clench your teeth as you think of your crummy apartment and how long it's been since you've been able to take a day off work without having to worry about making ends meet. Yeah. He's only 2 years older than you, but it feels like he's eons ahead of you in every other aspect of your life. So, he asks, how did your appointment go? Did you get drilled full of holes or what? A sense of shame creeps over you. Laugh about your dorky night guard with your brother. Tell him about the night guard and why you need it. Lie. Tell him it was a routine cleaning. Tell him about your tooth grinding problem, but not the stress causing it. It's funny because I was just talking about how I would lie to my family about going to therapy. I feel like I'll tell him about the tooth grinding because, if anything, it might spawn a more in-depth conversation about my stress, even if I don't want to talk about it. He might suggest like coping mechanisms or just talk about some of the stresses in his life and how he deals with them, and that might end up helping me. The dentist said I'm apparently grinding my teeth too much when I sleep. Oh, Malcolm replies. Been stressed out lately, kiddo? Deciding that you don't really want to go into it, you tell him that you don't think that's the case and it's probably just a random thing. He doesn't pry further and instead begins reminiscing with you about times you chipped a baby tooth because he accidentally knocked you over once. Ooh, been there a few times. Not quite with a chipped tooth, but I actually did get a pretty gnarly scar on my lip once. You out for dinner and catch up on things, but you still feel somewhat distracted by the gnawing anxiety in the back of your mind. Though you enjoy your brother's company, you still feel like you want nothing more than to go home and hide from the world tonight. It becomes hard for you to try and stuff all of the horrible feelings down and get emotionless when someone like the dentist can see a fraction of what's going on inside your head. It leaves you feel embarrassed and weak, that vulnerability again, and you hate yourself for feeling that way. Don't feel embarrassed, don't feel weak, and don't hate yourself. Embrace when you are vulnerable. You wonder if you're really fooling anyone into thinking you're a normal person. And then you wonder if your brother knows and is hanging out with you out of pity tonight. It's not the case. After he drops you off at your apartment, you throw the night guard out. You can't stand to even look at that thing. You are profoundly depressed. You are barely functional. On days you can't even get out of bed at all. It's a dry Sunday morning. You grab yourself a morning coffee and scoot your rapidly growing kitten off your office chair despite her protests. They do grow fast. Sit down at your desk to check your email. A new message pops up in your inbox almost as soon as you do. It's from Amanda, and you remember your meeting in the cafe awkwardly bringing up your feelings to her. Subject: Hey buddy. Body: Hey, sorry it's been a few weeks. I meant to get this to you sooner, but it took a while for me to get a hold of my folks back home. Dad told me to say hi, by the way. Anyway, I remember what we talked about. Anyway, I remember what we talked about last time I saw you, and I hope you aren't insulted, but I asked my mom for the number for her therapist. Don't worry, I didn't tell her who it was for. I think she's worried about me now, though. Anyway, the number is... It's a really good office. You should look into it. Talking to someone never hurts. If you're worried about money, don't be. They're one of the few that has a really good sliding scale fee system and won't charge you when you can't afford. That was the kind of therapist that I had to go to. I hope you feel better. It was really nice seeing you again. A. It's still early enough that you could call and make an appointment today. Your kitten curls up on your lap as you consider what to do. Sleep on it, and, well, first, call the therapist number you're looking forward. That is almost never how it goes. I actually, with my own personal therapy experience, it took me like a week to call them after having their information. And even on the phone, I was stumbling, and at several points I just thought about hanging up or saying it was a wrong number or something. Try your luck and call the number, even though the mere thought of talking to someone makes you anxious. You care enough to send it. She cared enough to send it to you after all. Sleep on it and see how you're feeling in the morning. You're not keen to the idea at all, but you don't want to disappoint Amanda. Close the email without thinking about it anymore. This has been embarrassing enough already. Now let's sleep on it. Because the idea that you would disappoint Amanda would, for a person going through this, it might actually be enough for them to consider talking to the therapist just out of wanting to respect their friend's time and effort that they put in. The thought of picking up the phone and calling someone about this right now is overwhelming. Sure, you're having a hard time lately and have motivation issues, but are you really in need of therapy? Shouldn't you be able to just get over it yourself? No, that's what a therapist is for. What if they put you on medication that makes you feel like a zombie? Okay, I understand that feeling. What if you go and the therapist looks down on you? That does not happen. What will Alex think about this? So some of these questions they're caused by the chemicals in your brain just not creating a sensible world around you, not creating an objective world around you. Some of them are, in my opinion, all of them are very valid, but some of them, like I said, are caused by the illness as opposed to other ones that are caused by legitimate concern. For instance, the medication. That one is a large fear of people to any degree because they want to feel better. They don't want to feel numb. And what your spouse would think of you, that's not chemicals. That is a very visceral human reaction to when things change in your life. You don't want it to change other aspects of your life, especially relationships. Trying to think about these things at once makes it feel like a very big deal, and you decide to take your time to think on it. The rest of the day passes quickly, and that night you have a hard time trying to sleep because your brain is too busy thinking about all these things and imagining all the ways it could go horribly wrong. Yep, listing. That is a downfall of mine. The next morning you check your email again with blurry eye sand and a meowing kitten. Amanda's email is still there, seemingly waiting for you. You are no more decided than you were yesterday. What now? Just call already. It can't hurt to check it out. Call after wrestling it with it for a few more minutes. Don't call. This is too much for you to be able to deal with this right now. No, we need to make the call. And the way that these are structured are actually very real, because I know when I was seeking therapy, it did come down to the point where I told myself I'd wrestle about it for a few more minutes and then I would call, because I knew I was going to make the call. But I still needed to rationalize it to myself, and the rationalization of it made it so that way I could stay on the phone without feeling embarrassed or ashamed or hanging up after the first couple rings or any of the outcomes that could have happened. You read through Amanda's email 2 or 3 times, then sit and stare at the computer for a while the memory of that uncomfortable conversation makes you feel newly embarrassed and self-conscious. Part of you is also encouraged by the fact that she cared enough to get back to you at all. Sitting in front of your computer, you start to question things like whether or not Amanda sent you the number out of pity or perhaps some sense of obligation after having listened to you. The obligation wasn't listening to you. The obligation comes from Amanda wanting to be a good person, be a friend, and be there for you, which in reality is no obligation. It's a pleasure for a lot of people to be able to do this for their friends. You question her motives and the validity of her concern and whether or not you think seeing a therapist would even be helpful. You better make this call. I'm going to be really upset if this game just lied to me. Yet almost unconsciously, you reach for your phone, and before you realize what's happening, you're listening to the therapist line ring. Before you could bring yourself to hang up, you're listening to the slightly clinical but not unpleasant voice of the receptionist, who asks how she can help you. I'd like to make an appointment with the doctor. You managed to stammer out. The conversation is quick and not nearly as unpleasant as you were fearing, and quicker than you could say Freudian slip, you've scheduled an appointment. Quicker than you realize appointment day rolls around. What do you do? Just going to the therapist's office isn't an option. Head to the therapist's office even though you're totally unsure of what to expect. Very real. Sit in your car terrified and try to talk yourself into/out of going. Just the thought of going to your appointment ties your stomach in knots. You crawl back into bed. No, we are heading... Oh, our depression got a little bit better. We are heading in. We are heading in. It is a very hard struggle taking those first few steps, and yeah, I know that in reality what I did was I drove and I sat in my car and I very seriously considered just leaving, but I rationalized to myself that there would be no harm in going in, but the 50-50 on this makes me very nervous, so I had to go with the sure thing. You have your first session with your new therapist, Dr. Susan Melville. Oh, Susan, like from my AI series. A tall woman in her mid-40s with a disarming demeanor and patient eyes, with the start of the slightest smile lines. She makes you feel comfortable fairly easily, which is a pleasant surprise after all of your anxieties over the appointment. As you leave, you make a second appointment. You're still skeptical about all of this, but you figure you might as well see where this goes. The hardest part, it seems, was taking the first step. Yes. You're still not sure if and how you're going to tell your family or your partner, but you figure you'll deal with that when the time comes. Just don't. That was what I did. Granted, I probably shouldn't have gone about it in some of the ways that I did, but it's no one's business. If you are seeing a therapist, don't feel pressured to tell anybody. It is no one's business but your own. Either way, you feel relieved that you managed to see this through instead of being paralyzed with worry over it. Even if nothing comes of it, you did something you said you would instead of flaking out or running away. And that should create such a feeling of pride. Just being able to go, even if you just went in and sat down and felt unsure the whole time and you walk out, objectively looking back, you could say, at least I went, at least I tried. You're emotionally exhausted when you get home, and collapse into bed. You sleep better that night than you have in a week. Wish you still had that night guard, though. And you're not sure if it's because you were so tired when you got home or if it's because of the therapist. Alright, we are very depressed still. You spent some time on a therapist's couch. You're having difficulty finding the motivation to continue going to the sessions, and I'm not currently taking medications. Alright, that's where I'm going to leave it for today. I will have the 4th episode up next week. As I said before, I will have at least one more video up this week. And yes, as before with these videos, especially if you watch all the depression quests in a row, it gets pretty heavy pretty quickly. So I am going to put a link to another video right up there. That's just a little bit more fun and lighthearted. But yes, if you're enjoying the series, feel free to leave a comment. Tell me if you're liking it. Like, subscribe, all that jazz, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!